Check the mic and make sure it sound right.
So welcome everyone to the group chat brought to you by OVERMUGGED. I'm Darrell and joining me today is Xin Wei.
Hello.
Okay, today we're going to be talking about a pretty interesting topic. How do you get a head start when school reopens? Now, you might be thinking, why so competitive? Why need to get head start, right? Like just chill, holidays supposed to relax. Okay, I think both of us, we do agree that holiday is a time for you to recuperate as well as to recharge. But getting a head start when school reopens is going to be quite important because, you know, when CCA comes around, now that you're probably in like upper sec or J2, you have more responsibilities. And, you know, it's about staying afloat. So having that slight head start might go a long way to ensure that you don't drown in the work. All right. So Xin Wei, can you share with us some methods that would help in terms of getting a head start when school reopens?
A method. I think one thing is for the Sec 4, is definitely get the Sec 3 chapters right. Because when school starts, you don't have time to care about the Sec 3 chapters. I think it depends. Some of my students did quite well for the Sec 3 end of year, and I tell them to go and like chill a bit because they can rest a bit more. But if my students maybe like Sec 3 didn't do so well, I would tell them I would just have to find out why and go and look at those chapters that they didn't do well.
So I'm completely on board with that because for all my group tuition right now, we are purely just recapping old Sec 3 topics, right? Because you need to realize that you won't see these old topics until maybe mid-year exam or even after.
I think after June.
Yeah,
July,
exactly.
yeah.
So it's going to be a while until you're going to look at those topics, and those topics will appear at O-level. So it's not that they are less recent and then you can throw them away. So one of the most important things is to spend a bit of time to recap. And when we say recap, you don't even have to go super in-depth if you don't want to, but roughly read through to make sure you don't forget the things you have already learned. And that will go a long, long way. I think something else that you can try to do is to start reading up on new topics. I know this one sounds a bit kiasu, like, wow, like, I haven't even learned yet, you want me to go read first. But here's the logic behind it. If you haven't touched the topic completely, you have zero idea what the topic's about, and you just learn it in school, you're going to struggle a bit, especially for the more difficult topics that they reserve for Sec 4 and J2. It's going to be more challenging. But reading through the chapter once, I guarantee you don't understand most of the stuff. Yes. But the minimum is at least now you know what's coming your way. You know which parts you're confused about that you might want to get clarification on. You're aware of how in-depth and how difficult the chapter is. So you can sort of mental prep and, you know, prepare certain questions that you might want to ask ahead of time. I think that goes a long way in terms of making sure that you know what's coming your way and staying afloat. So that will go a long way, especially if you read through the upcoming new topics. All right. And you know, on our website, we have all the notes available for all the chapters. It wouldn't hurt to just download the chapter and just to browse through. You don't even have to go in depth, but just to take a look at what the chapter would entail. And something magical that you might not realize is that when you browse through these chapters much earlier, when you actually do the chapter again in school, when they teach, you will notice that it gets a lot easier. It's like, I don't know, it's like eating medicine, right? The first time you eat the cough syrup, it tastes like shit, but after that it gets easier. I don't know what you call it, but you know, things get easier after you get a few repetition. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think even just for like what a word means, because in bio there will be a lot of like new words, and just even by like familiarizing your like what does this word mean. Let's say all the organ system, right? You just know the label, you just know like what that these organs exist, right? It's actually kind of a head start already, because you don't have to spend time going memorizing how to spell that word, how to like what does that word mean, because there are a lot of new words to be learned. I can assure all the Sec 3 and Sec 4, there's a lot of new vocab coming your way when school reopens. Yeah.
I think something I'll just like to it's like an interlude to share here is that OVERMUGGED, we are launching like the Head Start program, right? And it's completely free. You know, like we always do this. Whatever students need, we come up with it. So what we're hoping to do through these sessions is that for just short 1.5 hours, we're going to give you like an overview of what is upcoming, like what are the upcoming topics coming your way, what to look out for in those topics, and to share a few revision strategies that will be highly effective. Then we're going to take a quick dive into one of the upcoming topics and to share more. For myself, I'm doing chem and physics. So for those topics that I chose, right, those are important foundational topics to other chapters that are coming your way. So for chem, I'm doing like redox reaction because I know redox would either kill you or help you when you do electrolysis. So I think it might be helpful to tune into these head start sessions just to get a sensing of what's coming up and to get more of a more professional insight into making sure that your next year can be a smooth sailing one. Of course, if you're not able to make it for the specific timing, be rest assured, we always upload all the videos on YouTube. So take a moment, go and look through it. I think you have a lot to gain from it. Xin Wei, what are you doing for your head start?
For my head start, actually, I just ended like some of my trial group tuition. And for the head start, it will be quite similar. I also went through like a whole big picture because bio has 20 chapters. And I basically just listed out and how they are linked to each other. Because I think those are like not easy to see, but once spelled out, you're like, oh yes, that is why they arrange it like that. And that's how these 20 chapters are selected. And once you get the big picture, because in bio, sometimes there will be like cross-chapter questions. And seeing those links definitely help to like, not that without knowing those links, you cannot answer those questions, but understanding those links will help you to like identify those like cross-chapter questions immediately. And it's definitely more effective that way. So I did spend some time to like talk about that whole big picture idea. And then for Sec 3, I'm gonna do cells. That's the first chapter. So for the Sec 2 moving to Sec 3, that's the topic that I'm gonna do. And then for the Sec 3 moving to Sec 4, I'm gonna do transport in human because it's also quite an big and important chapter.
And of course, if you're listening to this and you are Sec 1 moving on to Sec 2 or J1 moving on to J2, all our tutor teams have respectively prepared something. So even if you're in Sec 1 moving to Sec 2, there's both science and math head start. For our JC kids, you know, the typical subjects that of the tutors that are in the OVERMUGGED team. So I think this is an event that you guys can look forward to, and I hope it will help you guys a lot. All right. So if you can just attend, it's completely free. So drag your friend along and let's have some productive 1.5 hour of discussion. Even for English and history, there is as well. We'll be going through SBQ and essays. Okay, but back to today's topic on why is it important to get a head start. I think something that's a little underrated is that when you are able to envision, like what Xin Wei said, and link certain topics together ahead of time, that will go a long way in terms of helping your mastery. So when I say that, this is very true for chemistry and physics. So for chemistry, the way I teach, sometimes my structure is a little different from what the school does, purely because I understand how topics tend to cluster together. So in an exam, the amount of questions they can set is limited. And they are sort of forced to ensure that they test as many chapters as widely as possible. So a lot of times they tend to combine like a few topics into one question. And after teaching long enough, you know what those questions are. And it's important that you are able to identify those clusters of topics that should be revised collectively because the questions are always interrelated. So I give you a real example. For chemistry, you should always study acid, bases, salts, and QA together because the topics are highly related. And I think I mentioned earlier, like redox and electrolysis is like a combo, right? Combo set. So I think all of this we'll mention during our Head Start program. But if you're just doing revision by yourself, you will notice that there's a certain pattern to it. And soon when you study redox, you don't look at it as an independent chapter. But because you read up beforehand on electrolysis, you learn that redox is a big part of electrolysis. And then once you have that kind of continuity, suddenly you see the big picture, like the jigsaw puzzle will start forming. And I think once you see the big picture, that's when you sort of inch closer towards mastery. And I think that will help a lot, especially when you're hoping to do well if you're going into a national exam here. Xin Wei, anything else that you'd like to share in terms of Head Start before school reopens?
That is it. In terms of content, right? Yeah, I think that is it. And yes, come and join the Head Start. Come and look at the Head Start program. I think there are quite a lot of content. I don't really know about other tutors, but I believe that other tutors probably have a similar strategy, like giving you a big picture. And it's good to know the big picture. I think it's important.
Yeah, because I think that is something that as a student studying a chapter for the first time, you wouldn't know. But as tutors, we've been teaching this for many, many batches. It's like I'm just repeating what I've been teaching for the last 7 years. But I think it works because that's how the exams will be structured. So give it a listen. I think maybe what we can do is we head over to the question of the week. So Xin Wei, if we are right now, right, we're in December and we want a head start, we're like, wow, you say head start so good. I'm going to do it. Okay. Is it more important to learn the new content or to try the questions?
You know my answer for this question for sure. Because Darrell and I talk about this quite a bit. My answer is definitely learning the content. Not that they are mutually exclusive. I don't think it's like you have to only pick one. You can do both, right? But if this is about which one is more important and you only can do one, it is definitely getting the content right. Because after all, when you are doing the question, or you're doing all the practice paper, past year paper, or even TYS, that is a compilation of what you have learned, like the content. It's like to check whether your content good or not. If your content good, you may be able to do the question, or you may not be able to do the question. If your content is not good, don't even need to talk about question. Yeah, so I vote learn content.
Same. I think if you're at the stage where you're learning something new, the content is king. If you don't know your stuff, you try question also no point. But having said that, I need you all to realize that there is value in trying practices, even when you're learning the chapter, because it helps to tell you whether you know the chapter well enough or not. So sometimes you read, you're like, I get this lah, no issue. Then you go and try the question, you're like, what the hell? Right? So that tells you and signals that you probably need to go back to your content. So practice is always a supplement to the content. I do think that closer to exams, when you have mastered your content, right?
For sure.
Yeah, then questions.
Then you need to practice a lot. But the basic is that you need to get your content right.
Yeah. So if right now you're thinking of head start, go and learn the new content first. Set 3 topics. If you already mastered the content and you want to keep it warm, right, to make sure you still know your stuff, maybe doing some practices would be good.
Yeah.
So I think that's about it for this episode on having a good head start. So it's about being prepared, making sure you know what's coming your way, and spending a bit of time to recap whatever you have learned in the past year. And that will go a long, long way. Okay, and with that, we come to the end of today's podcast. Hope you had a good listen. If you are listening to this on Spotify, please remember to follow us on YouTube, leave us a like, and leave us a comment on what you'd like us to discuss next. And with that, we would like to say goodbye and see you in the next podcast.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
It sound right, boy.